Good morning. I want to welcome you to today's chapel service. And today the focus is going to be on Fields of Faith. I'm Jim Hardy, Director of Athletics here at Campbellsville University, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you an outstanding group of coaches and athletic staff who will lead in this featured presentation today. They're really going to focus in on how we incorporate more than a game into our daily work here at Campbellsville University with our athletic program, and we hope you enjoy. And as always, God bless you and go Tigers.
Hello and welcome to Ransdale Chapel for our Fields of Faith chapel service. Today we are featuring several of our outstanding coaches from our athletics department, and we're excited to have them here to show what Jim Hardy always says, that it's more than just a game. And so it's really cool to get a chance to talk with them and see the heart of the athletics department. I'm going to have each of these coaches and personnel go through and talk about who they are and what their role is here at the university.
So I'm Perry Thomas, head football coach here at Campbellsville. This is my 13th year here.
Good morning. I'm Buford Sanders, head baseball coach, associate athletic director, year number 31.
I'm Eric Graves. I'm the assistant athletic director and interim men's and women's bowling coach. I've been here since 1988.
I'm Corbin Harris, and I am a first-year assistant track and field and assistant cross-country coach for the men's and women's teams.
My name is Carrie Coots, and I am an athletic trainer, and I've been here 5 years.
My name is Ginger Colvin. I'm the head women's basketball coach, and I've been here since 1986.
Awesome. We're so thrilled to have you guys here with us today, and this is a great group of coaches and a great representative of what the athletics department really is. So I'm excited to have you here, and we're going to talk a little bit about some things. We're going to kick things off. 1 Corinthians 10:31 tells us, whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. From your perspective, how does that work in competitive sports? Perry, you guys are pretty competitive on the football field. Let's start with you.
Yeah, so I think that God truly wants us to give our greatest effort in everything we do. I think when we say we're Christians and so forth, some people think that's a soft thing. But I think that, if you get through the scriptures and so forth, that God wants us to be competitors. He wants us to give our max effort. He wants us not to waste our talents and to give everything we have. And to me, that's a godly thing. And that's the way we should be competing to maximize what we have.
Now, Coach Sanders over next to you there, he's got several titles under his belt there. So what's it mean for competition for you, Coach? Because I know your heart and your heart for the gospel. What's competition? How's that work with you?
Whatever the platform is that we have, the purpose should be to be some salt, to be the difference maker. In the degree that we can. I think that's the reason, why we were created, is to facilitate what it is the Creator, wants us to become and how we're to share it with others. So, whatever our role is in competition, whatever the platform is in your vocation, is make a difference in a positive way. Strive to do that. And I think that's our purpose.
Ginger, how about you with women's basketball?
I think in competition, you're tested daily, tested on so many levels. And I think that's the same thing as a Christian. You're tested daily. And sometimes you have the good with you, sometimes you have the bad with you. And it's just a platform. It's a platform to go out and show I can handle this when I'm tested. And then it's a platform to show I make mistakes too. And that's one thing. We can't all go out and be perfect. But when we do make mistakes, how do we handle those mistakes? How do we handle that adversity? And I think as being a Christian and being an athlete, you're on the same platform. You're being watched. You're being critiqued. And so that to me is just a way to show how you can handle adversity, how you can handle success and adversity.
Awesome. what I heard in that too is it's not necessarily about competing against the other person. Sometimes it's about competing against yourself and sharpening yourself, which is a great point, which is the gospel calls us to. Paul calls us to that quite a bit. And so it's awesome. Now, there's a champ sitting over there, Corbin Harris, not just coaching, but a former athlete for us here, which several have been. Several coaches we have on staff have been athletes for us, but Corbin's a recent athlete for us and champ. Corbin, how about yourself? Because in running, it's a little different than competing against somebody else. A lot of times it is competing against yourself. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like whenever you're out running, a lot of times you're either competing against, you do have competition, but there are times where you're just competing to better yourself or competing against the clock and different things like that. But I think just overall in competition, everything, like what that verse sort of hints at, that everything that we need to do needs to be in a way that is pointed towards God, and whether that's just putting in your full effort and maximizing in every opportunity that you have, or even the things outside of the athletic competition, like taking care of your body, or just sleeping right and just taking care of yourself, eating right. Those are different ways that you can just glorify God by really taking care of the thing that He gave you and created you to be. Like the other coaches have said, like your sport is your platform. I know as an athlete here, I had multiple opportunities to serve simply because I was an athlete. People recognize me as an athlete, and if I guess an example, I wouldn't be here talking if I wasn't an athlete whenever I was here. I wouldn't have the opportunity to pour into the athletes that I coach if I wasn't an athlete. So you're being watched. People are going to see you every day and really critique both the good things and the bad things about your actions. And so as an athlete, you have a different platform. You're going to have opportunities to serve that you may not be able to get to otherwise.
Awesome. Along with that, you said taking care of yourself. That's comes right down to Carrie's alley over there, because Carrie is one of our trainers, and we have a great training staff, award-winning training staff. We'll brag on them a minute. And but Carrie, about that, in this competition, this thing of trying to strive to do your best and be your best for the glory of God, it's about taking care of yourself too. And you see a lot of that with our athletes.
We sure do. And I really love my job as an athletic trainer. I get to see these kids, I call them kids, these athletes, sometimes when they're at their most frustrated. By the time they get to us, they've usually got an injury. They're usually really in a battle, and they want to get back to that field as fast as possible. And I love that gives me an opportunity to really encourage them. And I see that really as my role, and how I can use what God has given me is to encourage these kids, to keep their hopes up, to keep their spirits up, and then to push them. And athletes are great people because they push themselves, so they make my job easy. But really, what's important to me is to build that relationship with that athlete, to be able to speak not just into their athletic career, but into their life, to remind them what's important. To remind them that they can do the hard things, they can push through, and we have a lot of fun as well.
Awesome. Coach Graves, you're now in an interim coaching spot there with the bowling team, but you and Coach Sanders and Coach Hardy all have that administrative side, so you get to see a lot of those sports. You get to travel and see a lot of the different teams and stuff. And from your perspective on that same verse, what does it mean to you from a different perspective from the?
Well, I'll tell you what, Jimmy. I don't think you can separate God from anything else that you do, whether it's athletics, whether it's a student, because it all boils down to He gave you the talent that you've got, and He's given you the ability to handle things, okay, and shows you examples of way to handle yourself, whether you're at the top of that mountain or you're way down in that valley. He has given you the tools that you need to take care of those problems, and it's just a matter of we need to stay close to Him, let Him speak to us, let Him share with us in His Word what He wants us to do. But as an athlete, I'm telling you, I can't imagine being able to perform and do the things that these athletes do on a daily basis and not drop to your knees at night and thanking Him for everything that He has given you as far as talent? Because I'm telling you, it's absolutely amazing, when you watch, whether it's on the court or it's on the field, it's running, whatever. It's amazing the talent that these young kids have been given, and we need to be appreciative of that.
Amen. You guys have a great opportunity to influence young people's lives, and that's a huge thing. So let's go a little bit of history here, because if you look up online, you can find pictures where Ginger Colvin was a basketball player here in uniform, passing that ball around, and she was a great athlete here as well. She's a great coach now. So who was your greatest influence? Going back, who was it somebody that really invested in you, whether it's somebody from your church, somebody in your family, a coach? Who was your greatest influence? What has come around the circle?
I thought about that question a lot, and I'm a farm girl from Tompkinsville. This was, I was 17 years old when I arrived on campus. So my grandparents, actually their farm's connected. So when I grew up with all my grandparents in my life. We all went to the same church. And my parents worked, so if I got to practice, I got to do things. Most of the time it was my grandparents taking me back and forth. And so the greatest influence in my life was my family. Growing up the way we grew up, a farm life's a different life. And they were all great Christian people. And the older I get, the more I appreciate that. Just the examples that they set for me then and continue to set for me. So that's definitely who I would pick is my family.
Carrie?
I had a wonderful family too, but I tried to think of this from an athletic standpoint, this question. And I had a great coach in high school. I was a softball player, and we were highly competitive. And I was trying to think about my softball coach from high school and put a finger on what it was that made me respond to him. And it was two things, I think. Number one, he pushed us hard. Man, he was rough. There were days that we wanted to throw our bats down and quit because he pushed and pushed and pushed. But as an adult now, when I look back, what I know is that he pushed us because he loved us, because he saw greatness in us. And he knew that if we worked hard, that we would achieve great things. And he instilled that work ethic in us. And so we learned to work hard. And we got to state 3 years out of 4. And we learned to win. And we learned to push. And that is something that then translated into my real life, into my life outside of athletics. And then, of course, I'm blessed now to be back into athletics on the other side as an athletic trainer and still use all of those same things that I was taught in high school to push and to instill in these athletes that we work with, but also to remember to let them know that I push them because I know they can do great things.
Yeah, for me, I'm a big mama's boy, and so I definitely have to say my mom. Just growing up, I was one of the most competitive kids out there. I played, if there was a way to have a competition or a way to play sports, I was involved in it, whether it was basketball, frisbee, baseball. But I finally got into running when I was in 4th grade, and growing up, my mom never really pushed me into anything specifically. She wanted me to be active. She wanted me to go out. But she just really wanted me to try my best in whatever I wanted to do. But it wasn't until I started running in 4th grade that I actually found out that my mom ran. She was a Division I collegiate runner. And she had a lot of success, was one of the best runners in the state whenever she was in high school. And she never forced that upon me. I didn't even know that until I started running. And so as that sort of became a new passion of mine, she really, really started to push me and to pour into me into that sport because she saw that I had some ability. And in any sport that I had, I was never the most naturally gifted, but running was one that sort of came more naturally than anything else. But she was one that we would go out and I would run. She would sort of teach me what I needed to do over the summer with running mileage. She would run with me, or as I got older, she would start riding the 4-wheeler with me. When I was in college, there were times where she would just bike alongside me just so I could have somebody to run with. And then along with that, she so that sort of instilled the work ethic that I have. Her doing all those things, pushing me, really instilled just the ethic that I have. But then along with that, she taught me how to win and how to lose with grace. Even though we're going to work hard and we're going to strive to have success, anytime that I was defeated, there were times where I'd want to just slam stuff down or sort of throw my arms in the air. And even though she was frustrated because she's a competitive person and she wants us to have success as well, she recognized and would immediately get onto me and would just be like, this is not like a Christian example. Like, you are here, you have a platform, your friends look to you as a leader, you have younger kids that look to you, and so you have to set that example. And that's something that my mom instilled in me. And even as I came to college, she was one that she would come to every single race we had, really no matter where it was at, and that was one way I knew I had to be on my best behavior because my mom was there watching. But I also wanted to do everything because my mom loved me so much and because she went through that effort, that made me want to work harder because I wanted to have success for her as well. Even like my senior year, as I was just closing out my career, it hurt for me because I was like, this is the last chance that I get to run in front of my mom, just because she had been such a big influence for me. And since as a big motherly figure for me, once I came to college, Coach Lakes became that motherly figure for me as well, just because being away from home and being so close to my mom growing up, I felt like I needed a mom at college. And so Coach Lakes became a secondary mom while I was here. And so she was a big influence on really actually me having a passion for running and building my family sort of around the sport that I love.
Coach Graves?
I tell you what, I guess it's not a secret who the most influential person in my life was Ron Finley. He was a father figure to me. They joked about it a lot of times about, hey, there's your daddy. And, I kind of got to the point where I thought, yeah, he's my daddy. He's been taking care of me. But he was so influential. Some of the things I still to this day can't get through a day without doing something that he taught me over the time that he was here. And just I could just story after story. I'll give you one example of the type of man he was. I can remember coming on the practice field. That was when we practiced right there across from North Hall. But I remember we came on to practice and we gathered up as a team, and he looked over at me and he said, "What's Derek doing over there?" And one of our ball players was with somebody over in the corner of the practice field. He said, "What's Derek doing over there? We're supposed to be gathered up." "Coach, he's leading a young man to Christ right now." He said, "Everybody, we're going to take a knee. We're going to pray him through this." And right there, before we started practice, everybody dropped their knees, and he's commenced to praying, and prayed him through that leading that young man to salvation, and it's one of those things where, the game is important. Those practices are important, but he always left instilled to me that there's something more important, and it's that relationship with Jesus Christ. How that needs to be a part of your life, and he's carried that through to me now, and I feel my job is to carry Ron Finley's legacy on, and it's I enjoy it. Now that I'm back again coaching with the bowling, I find myself talking to the recruits the same way I did when I talked to football recruits 30 years ago. Instilling in them that one of the most important decisions that you'll make in your lifetime is that relationship with Christ. And the second one is where you're going to go to school. And, so I guess he's probably the one that was most influential in my life.
Coach Sanders?
My mom and dad, we were raised in the church and very grateful for that. They certainly gave me early on a work ethic, and I think that's something that I've really got from my father, that improvise and overcome was something that he did all the time. As far as it's amazing at some of the things that he could do and figure out, and I think I got a good bit of that, from him, and I'm very appreciative of both my parents and of the influence that they gave me. Sally Gaskins was a 7th grade teacher who really opened my eyes and made me, for the first time, start thinking about my future, and that I was, if I, chronologically advanced, I was going to be having a job somewhere in a career. But she was very instrumental in motivating me about learning and reading and just growing intellectually. Ray Cooper was a friend of mine, older friend, but became interested in me and my future, and he actually took me on my first college visit. And honestly, I don't know, that could have been a turning point. I've always thought about that a lot, that he took the initiative to take me. And, he talked and said, hey, just go and let's see and look into this. And I did and got started, and it changed my life. And being in athletics, there's 4 particular coaches, Coach Varner, Coach Fitzpatrick, Coach Lynn, and Coach Robertson, that in high school and college that I got a little sideways a couple of times. And these men were demonstrating the champion of character tenets and in Christ-like manners for most part. Every now and then, that wouldn't be exactly that way, but they were great men. They were men of faith, and they loved me, and they drew lines and got me back on the path where I needed to be a couple of times and changed my life. And I'm forever grateful to them and everybody that's impacted me.
Coach Thomas?
Yeah, so I was blessed to have many great coaches and, dad in the home and uncles and so forth. But the most influential people in my life have been the women in my life. My mother and my 2 grandmothers. They're the ones that, packed us up to go to church each week, to give us that Christian background. They're the ones that basically raised us. And I say us, I'm talking about my brother and I. They provided the discipline, the love, the accountability, the find a way in the world, the goal setting and so forth. All that came from them. And, the fellows were around. The coaches were around. And people on this panel have been influential in my life. But those 3 women right there, and my stepmother now and so forth, they have been the salt for me, because even today, my mom's still here, my stepmother's still here, and they'll still hold me accountable. And, they're the ones that gave us that Christian background and taught us what love and tolerance is all about. And, and sometimes we lose that in the world, love and tolerance. And they taught us what that's about. And they taught us what tough love's about and being accountable. So, when people say, well, Coach, how do you work in football and the hours you all work and coaching and recruiting and so forth and with breaking down film and so forth and still get to work on time and all this stuff? And I just tell them it's because I was raised with a bedtime. Literally, I was a senior in high school, and when the news went off, I had to be in the bed. I couldn't watch the news at night until I was a senior in high school. And, just at the time, you're thinking, well, why do we have to do this? None of my friends have to do it. But as I got into adulthood and being responsible for myself more, I realized that all of that was great for me as a man. And those are things that now, as a coach, we give back to our athletes. A lot of the times we give our life lessons back to the athletes in their raisings and influence. So the women in my life have been the most influential. And, I've been blessed to be around a lot of great people, though.
That's awesome. We're out of time, but I want to say thank you to each of you. I'm privileged to call each of you a friend, and I'm thrilled that you're here to be a part of this today, and thankful for the entire athletics department and for Coach Hardy and all he does over there, for everything that happens here. We get a lot of excitement at games, but I'm praying that today we got to see a little bit more of the heart of the program. And it's a privilege to have a great athletics staff and coaches that care, and these people who invest in our young people. It's great. Thank you all so much. Join us again next week for chapel. And until then, be blessed. God be with you.